Hello friends, in this video I am going to talk about the pawn structure weaknesses. It is very important topic. So while playing, you not know how to manipulate pawn structures for your opponent, and sometimes you don't know what weakness are there in your pawn structure, so that opponent can manipulate it and will get inside your territory and will checkmate you. So if that is the case, then you should know what pawn structure is and what are the weaknesses in a pawn structure. So we have four different pawn structures, and those are, uh, I mean, those four weaknesses are: the first one is an isolated pawn, and the second one a, is double pawn, and then backward pawn and holes. So I will talk about each one of them one at a time. Now let's start with the isolated pawn. So as you see, I have a chessboard on the screen, and you'll see that if I move my pawn upward, let's say d4. So now the two square next to uh, on the both side of this particular pawn is empty. There is no supporting pawn, and this is only protected by the queen. So these kind of pawn which require other materials to support it is called isolated pawn, and usually isolated pawn get killed very soon. So it is a pawn weakness because pawn are supposed to be giving us support, not the other way around. We should not be during our play. We should not be protecting it. But if that is the case, then it is a weakness. So this is the isolated pawn. In certain situation, the isolated pawn can be useful because it serves as an outpost. So I'll talk about outpost, that if you move your pawns and in such a way that once you place your piece next to the isolated pawn, then you cannot attack it. So if that is the case, then isolated pawn serve as an outpost, help an outpost. So for example, look at this example. Now d4 is isolated. Now d4 is isolated, and in this situation the knight comes to e5. If knight comes to e5, then there is only one way to challenge knight e5, is to push this pawn. And suppose if he is not able to push this pawn, then this is an outpost, because knight is fixed there, it cannot move anywhere, and it's a very good place for knight to be here. So this is a very good place to position your knight. But at the same time, you see that this is isolated pawn, because this one will get killed. So is it worth protecting? Yes, of course, because it is serving or helping knight, this isolated pawn. So certainly it need more protection, and it's an important pawn. So not all isolated pawns are like this. Sometimes the isolated pawns are useless and cause problem. So that is a case when you should go ahead and exchange isolated pawns immediately, or maybe sacrifice it. An isolated pawn can also be a passed pawn, because now in this file, in D file, this isolated pawn is uh, is not challenged with anyone. There is no other pawn other than that one pawn. There is no other pawn. It's a semi-open file now, right now, and it's well protected by queen, so it can keep pushing, and during the end game, maybe you can make it promote it to a queen. Now the comes to the second part of the pawn weakness, which is the backward pawn. What is a backward pawn? So now that we talking about single pawn, now suppose we have two pawns. We have two pawns. I'm trying to position here correctly, but not getting it. Okay, maybe I'll get it. So here is the situation, and in this situation, you see we have d4 pawn now, and we have e5, but the d4 is something which cannot move forward. Okay, then it cannot move forward, because when it moves forward to d5, the e6 will kill it. So in such a situation, you can't help it. Means this is a weakness. It's just like isolated pawn. This is also weakness, because you cannot move it forward, or you cannot protect it, because of course you can protect it with pieces, but on its own it cannot protect itself. So at this point, if the knight was not there or the queen was not there, this would not have been protected. This will get killed. So this kind of pawn structure, this kind of pawn situation is called a backward pawn. So backward pawn is also a weakness, and so let's go back. Let's try to recreate it again. Okay, suppose I push forward this, and black brings e6, e4, so this is a very good situation, ideal situation which I was talking about. So now the d4 cannot move to d5. If d4 move to d5, e6 will kill it. So, and this is the backward pawn weakness, because it cannot move forward and also cannot protect itself, because now the knight will come, and now knight is pointing to d4, and it will kill it, unless we bring our knight on f3 and protect it. So isolated pawn and backward pawn need protection. Okay, so now we bring the third topic. The third topic is double pawn. What is a double pawn? A double pawn structure is where you, in a single file, you have two pawns of the same color. So if that is the case, then it's called a double pawn. So let's assume that black bishop gives check on b4, and knight protects it. Then black takes, bishop takes knight, and b takes c3. So this situation, where we have two pawn in the same C file. It is called double pawn structure, and it is a weakness because now you cannot move it freely, because if it is a single pawn it will move fast, but with double pawn it cannot move fast. So this is particular weakness. But if same thing happened here in the king side, suppose we give a double pawn in the king side, then that is a different story altogether, because in the king side you don't need to move really. So a double pawn on the king side is, I think it's okay, because it provide more protection to you, and anyway you are not going to move pawn in front of your king. So I will not say it's a weakness on the king side. On the queen side is definitely a weakness, because during the end game you want to push your pawn and promote it, so it's a weakness. Now let's talk about holes. So the pawn structure give weaknesses. So these weaknesses are weak squares, where you can place your minor pieces. Opponent can place their minor pieces, and you can place your pieces in the opponent camp. How can you do that? How can you identify the weakness? Now, in the pawn, like an isolated pawn or double pawn or any kind of pawn structure, directly in front of the pawn there is a space which is unprotected. Normally it is unprotected, and you can see why. So in this situation, the weak squares are c4. c4 is weak square because it is protected by bishop. So if bishop was not there, that could have been a good place to place the black knight on a5. Then pawn on e5 is already on a weak square. These are called holes. Now also you see the knight on d4 is also weak. That was a weak square. So knight now occupies d4, which was actually a weak square. So similarly, you can find many weak points in opponent camp, squares which are unprotected. So let's see backward pawn and then discuss the holes with respect to backward pawns. d4, d6, e4, e6, e5. Now this is a situation we're talking about where d4 is a backward pawn. Now where is the hole? The hole is this d5. This is a hole which d5 is a hole that black occupied now. Similarly, if this is isolated pawn, then queen to a5. This is a weak point because right in front of that pawn there is a weak spot. So this is how you identify weak spots and holes and grab it immediately, because weak square give you strong position and also bring new tactic. Now in the weak spot a5, I am pinning the king. So this is a tactic that I'm doing because I have a weak square. If I have no weak square, I cannot pin it. So that's all, friends. These are the pawn weaknesses that you have to take care. And once you take care of these pawn weaknesses and manipulate pawn weakness to gain advantage on in the game, surely you will win the game. If you like my video, please like, share and subscribe to my channel. Thank you very much.